I'm Moritz Schildt. My background is I'm a lawyer by education. I work in asset management. I'm managing partner of my own classical securities trading asset management firm, and located here in Hamburg. And we advise institutional clients, mainly banks, insurance companies, on how to allocate their assets. Yes, of course. It was back in 2013. I got in touch with someone from Berlin, some developers, and they wanted to set up the first German crypto exchange at that time. And they needed some regulatory advice because it was pretty unclear. And that very evening, when I first heard about Bitcoin, I felt like, so how do I get one? And I bought my first Bitcoin at eBay, actually. And at €100 at that time, and I sent my money via wire transfer. And then I got a mail back saying, so what's your wallet address? And I didn't have a wallet at that time, and I set it up and I sent it over, and I was surprised that 15 minutes later it did pling, and I had my first Bitcoin. That was impressive, yeah. Definitely, I think everybody who's in that field goes through a pretty steep learning curve, and initially it was definitely the interest in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum to see how they develop, how you buy them, how you trade them. So it was much more from a very opportunistic investment approach. Then the next phase was a little bit looking into the newly upcoming ICOs with curiosity. I hardly invested in any, but that was pretty interesting to look at it. And then the next step was somehow really understanding the underlying technology, e.g. the blockchain. And I've focused much more on blockchain and kind of forgot about my Bitcoins. And then the most recent development now is really, with my background, definitely the upcoming security token things, which I believe has a tremendous future and is pretty interesting. This is likely to be the most relevant effect in real life of blockchain, that we are able to invest into something that's no more a security, but something digital. I tend to assume that this is kind of the most tangible effect, and nonetheless, the blockchain itself will have, or has, from my point of view, so many potential areas of application that I tend to compare it with the internet, because in the very early stages of the internet, people were saying, hey, it's cool, I can just get the weather forecast from Miami from my computer, and everybody felt like, okay, you can exchange information. And when someone were saying, so at some point in time we're going to buy books over the internet, everyone was saying, come on, that's impossible. And I think there's a similarity. Today we have no clue of which areas of our daily life and business are likely to be affected. I think so, yeah. I trust in the technology. I think that's not a problem. We need to really work on the application layer, on security protocols, on mechanisms that ensure that if you lose your private key, your coins aren't lost, and all this. This is an extremely interesting area to pursue. But I believe that the underlying technology for the time being is secure, and trust that it will be developed and enhanced in order to meet future requirements as well, yeah. Pretty much depends on what technology you use. So we see tokens that are on Stellar, for example, And with Stellar, there's a possibility to reset a wallet and to set it up again, so the tokens are not lost, which is, I think, a good feature if you think about having new investors starting to buy their first digital or tokenized asset. And yeah, in other cases, you will have clients that, or investors that either lose the token or that lose their lives, and the inheritance have the problem that they can see the tokens, but they have no way of accessing it. And this is likely to be a story that might show up on the Bild-Zeitung at some point in time. And this is a very negative aspect, that you invest in something, the money is gone, and it has even quadrupled in value, and you can't get it anymore because there's no one. And that's something people need to understand, and it's always better if it's about real money to know there's a number you can call and say, I did something wrong. It's about education, and it's about convenience, of course. So when the internet started, everybody heard about it. However, it was quite complicated. You had often needed to have the address of the site you wanted to get. There was no search engine. And of course, at that time, everybody who was sitting in front of a computer and someone told him, so how about the internet, was like, oh, no, that's all fizzy stuff and I can't do it. And the more we get this application layer into it, that makes it easy and convenient, and you see that it works within seconds. The generation of my kids, I have 4 kids from 12 to 25. I can easily imagine that in a few years they will get their pocket money in the form of digital assets, because it's more convenient for them to have just this basic aspect of they always have the money with them because it's on their phone, and they always have their phone with them, and they don't have to care if it's in my left pocket or in the right pocket or in the pocket of my jacket I left at home. This is some purely convenience aspect. And if you look at it, if everything works and the risk of losing it is significantly reduced, there's so many advantages of digitalized assets, definitely. I think from a society point of view, blockchain has an immense potential to really change the way we look at data. And today, all data is stored in central units, central databases. And you put your credit card, your ID, your kind of travel preferences, your X-ray pictures, everything is stored in centralized databases. And as such, it's at risk, because you don't know who is handling your data properly. It may get lost, it may get exposed to others, it may be deleted, it might be manipulated. There's so many risks, and most people are not yet fully aware of what's happening with their data. And I can very well imagine that this comes to a point where everybody starts becoming much more aware of these risks, maybe because he's realizing that someone is selling his personal data, or he's realizing that some of the portals that are so convenient are using the experience data to increase the price. If your hotel booking platform realizes that last time it took just 3 seconds for you to accept a 250 euro hotel room, and you search again for an hotel, it may say, hey, this is a guy who's easily 3 seconds willing to say, I paid 250. And if this starts, and I think that's just a matter of time, people will be much more reluctant in providing their data. And blockchain is, I believe that blockchain is the technology that helps to solve this issue. I can very well imagine that as people used to go to a store and say, do you have a website? That in the future, if someone asks me for my data, I'm going to say, but you're going to store it on the blockchain, right? Because this is a security aspect of, and I think this is likely to be the most relevant, that each individual has kind of the power to determine who has access to his or her data. And that is likely to really change the way we look at it. And I like to compare the blockchain with the invention of the printing machine for books, because at that time people were dependent on the church, and the church was interpreting what God is going to say. And then there came a purely technical invention. Everybody was able to buy his or her own Bible and say, hey, come on, in my Bible there's nothing about this and that. And blockchain is similar, because everybody can theoretically have access to the underlying data. And if Google or whosoever is creating statistics and saying X% of Y are Z and so on, now everybody can say, come on, I've looked at the data, I have the same data, and it gives me other results. And look at voting processes. If you really can track online how many voters have at what time, at what place, but you don't see what they voted for, so it's still a secret thing. I mean, this will significantly change the way votes can be used, and everybody can be part of it because it's digital. There's so many options. And then look at the banking for the unbanked, which is a tremendous effect. And there are other kind of social aspects. We will have people even driven through the climate, people that will be moving in this world. And we need some technology that is able to kind of coordinate everything. Don't ask me why in detail, but in principle, blockchain is a technology that will permit that everybody puts his or her data there, and then it's kind of automatically coordinated. That's definitely a very valid question. And in fact, Libra is a very interesting move, as it's pretty likely to help digital assets to become much more a kind of standard usable thing. On the other hand, the underlying idea of blockchain is an idea of decentralization, and it's an idea of responsibility of the individual, and it's about shared power. And I mean, the amazing thing is that Bitcoin has grown so much, more or less everybody has heard about it, even though there is no company, there is no marketing, there is no CEO, there is no press releases from Bitcoin itself. It made it just through kind of mouth of word and through the news, and it developed pretty good. And I tend to believe that we will more and more have this kind of more decentralized coming directly from the people who do it. And on the long term, I think that's something we have learned, that the trustworthiness of a network is ultimately more relevant than the stamp of a corporation, of a government, or of some kind of someone official. Well, Hamburg is a wonderful city. I was born here and I live here and I like it pretty much. Hamburg has a good culture of internationalization, or a view on globalization, because Hamburg has been the source of the Hanse, and the Hanse was an idea that's pretty much based on trust, and trust is very much related to blockchain, and that the Hanse has spread over a very, very large part of Europe, and this tradition is still there in Hamburg. And I see that we have quite a lot of opportunities to liaise between young startups that have smart ideas and larger corporations, particularly in the logistics area, that need to have these new ideas to kind of cope with the challenges of the future. And part of our idea, our Hanseatic Blockchain Institute, is trying to get them in touch to help them start piloting projects, small tiny ideas, and so developing a network, because the blockchain itself is pretty much something where you have to start to do it, and then you get used to it, and if it's good, that it's very, very easy to kind of distribute it all over the world. We just need to be the kind of starting point and to create an atmosphere. And I'm very happy that the Hamburg Bürgerschaft has officially communicated, at least, that they want to support all this. But definitely, we need the entrepreneurs on the one hand side, we need the developers, and then we need capital, of course. And Hamburg is rich, and we have many people that are very willing to invest in smart projects and in something like blockchain that has such a bright future and is likely to have such an impact. Actually, I'll be there with 3 different hats. So one will be that Hanseatic Blockchain Institute, whose main purpose is to educate about blockchain, and we'll be performing first time the premiere blockchain kindergarten. We have tried to explain the blockchain as easy as possible. The title is Blockchain as Easy as Pie, and we have kids from 10 to 15, and they will explain and they will build a blockchain you can touch on on stage. And I do hope that there will be many people that afterwards say, okay, I've heard about blockchain and now I have a first feeling, at least, what it is about and how it's working, and to understand the potential advantages. That's something I'm very much looking forward. Secondly, I'll be moderating a panel, and I think there are tremendous speakers, and I'm very much looking forward to moderating this panel on governance. And thirdly, I'll be a speaker myself. I'll be representing a company I founded 2 years ago, nordIX. nordIX is an investment vehicle, and we invest in cryptocurrencies and in blockchain-based projects. So we look at it all from a purely kind of investment perspective. But to do that, it's extremely important to network, to liaise with people, and that's the main reason why I'm so happy that Blockchance is going to happen in Hamburg. So that you don't have to travel and everybody comes here. That's great.